Hola, hola mi gente, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who clicked on this video and you are new, welcome. I am XOJO and I'm so excited you clicked here today because I will be talking about how I've been battling my physical TBR. I think lowering your TBR or getting rid of it completely is a really big goal for most people this year. Most of us maybe just a little bit got out of hand and purchased way more books than we've actually read them. And so I'm shamelessly displaying my TBR right behind me, and yes, there's more right behind me. I have a total of 4 stacks. I honestly thought my pile might be a little bit higher, but still, if I were to read one book a month of this stack, I would still not finish it all this year. I made a pretty good dent in it already, so I can't wait to share with you how to actually fight your physical TBR. Per usual, we're gonna have a special drink today, and that is a Rebel in my favorite Six of Crows cup. So the very first thing I did that I highly recommend you do as well is make an actual list of all the books you have. So I've mentioned Goodreads before, and on Goodreads you can also create specific lists for yourself. You will automatically have a want to read and a read list created by Goodreads. But you can actually make your own list. That's where I made my romance reading challenge list that I'm completing this month, and I can't wait to share with all of you. But I also made a physical TBR list. I started off by just walking around my shelves and looking up every single book that I had on my shelf on Goodreads, and I started adding it all up on that list. Anytime I would also buy an additional book, which I haven't done in a while, I go on there as well and add it to my Goodreads. That way I can actually see the total count, and if there's a number that I am feeling super anxious about, for example, if I were to see 70 books plus on there, I would feel completely overwhelmed, and it would probably stop myself from purchasing more books because I can actually see a solid number instead of just these gorgeous books displayed on my shelf. And if I just saw gorgeous books displayed on my shelf, I would have no problem adding more because you kind of get this satisfaction out of it. But when I see that freaking scary number on my Goodreads shelf, it does make me think twice about adding another book on there. That just means I'm adding a higher number to the count, and reading takes time. Another super satisfying thing about having a list on Goodreads is actually removing it once you're done. I didn't realize how type A I can be about this, but checking things off a list or crossing it out is just so satisfying for some reason. And so when I finish a book, I can go on my physical TBR list on Goodreads and actually remove it. And it's just so satisfying seeing that number go down, and it's like, yes, one more off my list I have accomplished. And it also keeps me motivated to keep reading even more because I want to keep removing things and hitting that delete button off of Goodreads. What's cool about it too, you can go on there and see every single bookshelf tagged to that book. So if I go into my want to read list, I can see if it's tagged on my physical TBR list as well, and vice versa. So sometimes I did forget to go on my Goodreads list and delete some off, and it would say read, hey, you read this book already, and so I can delete it off of that specific list as well. It will also help you really look at all your books at once, so you can scroll through it and see, okay, I have this one, I have this one, I have this one. Which one of these would I want to read? I don't know how you all organize your shelves, and maybe I'll do a bookshelf tour soon, but because my shelves are just so full, I have a lot of books stacked behind each other, and so I can't see everything I have. So when I first made that list, I actually forgot about some books I had tucked away in there. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I had this. I really wanted to read it. Now I get to see it all on my list, and so if I want to pick a book, I don't have to really go looking through every single shelf and not really know what I have. I can just look on that list and everything is displayed for me, and it's just really nice to have it all in one place. It also made me realize how much I added on there. So if you're wondering like how many books have I bought since the beginning of the year, I finally made this list last November, and I realized I had 11 physical books left, and between November and just with holidays and with last minute deals and Black Friday and all of that stuff, I ended up with 30 something to this date. With my 30 something, I felt like that's enough. I feel overwhelmed with these 30. Let me just get rid of these 30 and like finally get through them, because I like having a small physical TBR. I like the fact that I finished and then I can like treat myself to the following book. I like getting getting my book right away and reading it really close to the date of purchase. It just always felt really good. I don't know if it's also something that my family trained me to do because I loved reading growing up and I would just binge through those books. You guys, book nerds know that era in middle school. If you were a reader your whole life, or if you started in those middle grade years, you know that amazing era where you could just binge a whole series in a week or a day, and we didn't realize that we just had the time to and the energy to, and we just had to know what was happening. So during that whole era, I freaking loved reading so many books. Now that I think about it, my parents first introduced me to reading through the library, and they wanted to teach me how to properly take care of a book. When they noticed I love reading so much and I wanted my own collection and I wanted to keep my books, they said, okay, now I can take you to Borders. If you all remember Borders existing before it was bought out by Barnes and Nobles, I used to love Borders. We would go and my parents would say, here's your budget, you're allowed this much, go pick out books. And of course, I was already loving hardcovers, so I just got as many as I could. And then my parents would not let me purchase another book until I finished my stack. I think the most I bought at once were like 5 books. I had to finish those 5 books first before they would take me out again. And as we all know, we freaking love going to the bookstore. We love the smell of books, like going through, looking at all the covers, picking something, doing a haul. I don't know. It's just really nice to do. At the time I wasn't drinking coffee, but they would get me something from the cafe. So I guess those habits just followed me up to my age now. Once I finished, then they would go out and buy me a new stack or more books. They just really encouraged that reading, but they definitely made sure I finished my physical TBR first before getting me more. And I think that stuck with me. I like that feeling of accomplishing that physical TBR and not feeling like overwhelmed because I'm just getting more and more and more and more and more books, and then I'm not finishing them all. And I mentioned this before, I'm not judging people that get a bunch of books and they haven't read them. I know a lot of you are also collectors as well. I'm speaking for myself that that's something that makes me feel good, but I think if your goal is to bring down your physical TBR or to completely just start from zero, I think that first step of making a list of all the books you own and having that satisfaction of removing it off of that list is gonna really help you out. Now, the second goal I recommend is actually making I'm at least gonna read X amount of books a month. So what do I mean by this? You have your list, you can see how many books you have, and now you can decide how many books a month from my physical TBR am I at least gonna read a month. Because let's say you wanna keep buying a new book or something like that, or like me, you go to the library checking books out because you wanna try new books or a new release or whatever. I think that's totally fine, but I think it's good to make a goal of, hey, once a month I am going to dedicate myself to reading X amount from my physical TBR. So I'm not only reading borrowed books, new books, whatever, I'm reading something off of this list. And so like I mentioned, I have like 30 something books behind me. I can't do just 1 book a month and expect myself to finish this by the end of the year. But knowing myself, I did say I would at least read 1 book a month. And I'll tell you why. There are different types of people out in this world. There are some people who work really, really well under pressure and they need that accountability of like, I said 5 books, I have to read 5 books. If I give myself flexibility, I will not do it. And then there's some people who say, you know what, give me this goal, but I know I can exceed it, or I know I will be able to do it without that added pressure. And I fall into the second category in regards to this, at least. So I'm saying at least 1 physical book a month because that doesn't feel overwhelming to me. I don't like having numerical goals. Like I mentioned with my 2023 goals, I made a Goodreads number goal, but I don't really feel motivated by them. I don't feel like, great, I made 200 books my goal. I feel so motivated, I'm gonna get there. No, that would completely overwhelm me. And I feel like I would just freak out and not really enjoy my books and not really get through them. And so I realized like I thrive better if I'm told, hey, you know what, how about this reachable goal that you know you're gonna manage? And by giving me that relaxed state and saying, okay, I know I can accomplish this, I know I can do this, I'll exceed it. Like I know I'll go beyond whatever I set for myself. So I said 1 book a month. You just don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know if I'm gonna start getting so many recs that I really, really wanna read first through the library. I don't know if maybe life gets really busy and I won't be able to do it, and then I feel really sucky that I didn't read the 5 books a month that I set. I'm here on BookTube. I wanna make more content for you. I obviously need to read more than 1 book a month to really come on here and talk about things. But still, 1 book a month just feels good for my soul. soul. And so that's what we're gonna do. And already I have exceeded that goal. So for January, I ended up reading 5 books for my physical TBR. This month already, for February, I'm actually at 3. I finished 1 for sure, and I'm making my way through 2 additional physical books, and I do plan on picking even more physical TBR books from my shelf for this month. Like I said, I'm pairing that with the Romance Challenge, which are a bunch of library books that I'm borrowing because I don't own every single romance book recommended to me. And so this is what I mean, like set a at least goal for you, whatever works for you. If you're like me, you're like, that's overwhelming, let me do at least 2 or 3 that's manageable, do that, and then hopefully you'll exceed that. If you're the type of person that really thrives on setting that goal and you feel so good when you hit it, then do that 6 books a month or 10 books a month or whatever, and really get through your physical TBR, and of course check that off your list and remove it. My final tip is almost like a little hack, and that's actually pairing my physical book with the audiobook version. So I found out last year how much I really enjoy listening and reading at the same time when I'm feeling a little distracted and I need something to like keep me going. I really like pairing those 2 things together. But for this physical TBR challenge, it's especially helpful because, like I mentioned in my previous how to start reading video, if it starts off a little bit slow and I need some help getting through it, I like starting it off via audiobook because it'll push me through those slow moments, and then I can continue reading. So I think it'll keep you going if you're feeling a little distracted, or if you have a lot of errands to run, you're like, hey, I don't think I can even hit that 1 physical book a month. Try it and pair it with your audiobook so that in those moments where you do have time to sit down, you can pick right up with your physical book. I do not do it with every single book, of course, because I actually really enjoy physically reading my books, but I also realize that I don't always have the luxury to sit down and actually just open my book and read. So the audiobooks really help. It's also really nice when you place a hold on an audiobook that's on your physical TBR, because when it's ready and it pops up like, hey, it's available now, guess what? You need to read that physical book. It's no longer like you can put it off. It's no longer, well, I haven't had the time to sit and read. You don't really have excuses now. The audiobook is ready to launch you off and kickstart you. Another thing I learned through audiobooks is that it actually showed me some books that I had a hard time physically reading, and I thought, hey, maybe I just need help getting through this. I would start it via audiobook and realize it's still not my jam. An example is actually The Merciful Crow. I really tried reading this physically. I wasn't feeling it, so I started it audiobook again once it was available, so I gave it a second shot, and again, I wasn't feeling it. I think I got like 40% through or more, and I was just like, this is so hard for me to get through. I don't really care. I don't want to keep listening. And so I realized, okay, this is a true DNF for me. I tried it physically, and now I tried it via audiobook. I still checked it off of my physical TBR because it was a DNF. It was really helpful to also pair it with the audiobook because it really helped solidify that this was not a book I was interested in reading. Now, before completely finishing off my physical TBR for the year, I did make previous plans to go to the largest used and new bookstore in the world, and that is Powell's Bookstore. Powell's Bookstore is located in Portland and is actually a whole entire block of just pure books, a book lover's dream. It has about 1 million books, and there's so many books in different languages, and there are also audiobooks now. I realized in my last visit you can actually go purchase them, which was crazy. It kind of felt like looking at cassette tapes or something because they were like in boxes. It felt so a little old school, and I was just wondering who actually goes in person to shop audiobooks. Not that I'm judging, it was a genuine question. Like, I wonder if anyone ever thinks about going to the bookstore to actually get some audiobooks, but I think that's pretty fun, especially if a person's never heard of an audiobook before. Maybe seeing one in person will give them some motivation or some curiosity to actually try it. This bookstore has so many freaking levels. I've been here before. This isn't the first time. It's actually really fun going with friends or going with someone that really wants to see this bookstore. So it has so many different levels, and they're actually even color coded. This place is super freaking huge, and it has entire floors dedicated to a certain genre. My favorite is, of course, the young adult genre. You have the red room, the pink room, you have the yellow room. There are all these different types of rooms and levels. They even have a rare book section with the lock and key and everything that you can go inside. And I've only ever seen this in movies where like you have to wear gloves and stuff, so I don't really know what the rare books section is, but I am a little curious. I just bet it's more for scholars or collectors probably. So there are a lot of really cool floors. There's also a lot of merch, of course. They have some of the best bookmarks. I got a bookmark recently from there as well because I just love all their bookmarks and I love wooden bookmarks. I did get a few final books in this trip because they have really great condition used books, and I just love a good used bookstore. I don't really see very many, or at least in amazing condition, but Powell's used books I've always seen in really amazing conditions. You can get a hardcover for $11, $8, $9, $12. I really like their variety because oftentimes you can find a recently released pretty quickly. So in this case, Cruel Illusions had just come out. I don't remember if November or December, and I was there in January, and there was already a used hardcover copy. I really love the cover. I'm really curious about it, but I wasn't sure if I would actually spend the whole amount on a hardcover book, and I found Cruel Illusions, so I was really excited to add that on there. I really regret not getting the Beasts of Prey collection because each book I think was $8 paperback. I'm just such a hardcover person. It's really hard for me to end up getting a paperback book. Hardcover is so much easier to display in my opinion, but now I kind of regret not getting it sooner. So I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of that tour because I think it's a really cool bookstore. It's a book lover's dream. It's just really fun to visit, and there are still a lot of other local bookstores that I often support. I don't always get to go to Powell's and browse around, but I thought I would take advantage since I wasn't really planning on adding even more books after this trip. The last thing I will know is I'm doing my best to not add more books, and so while I'm not on a book buying ban like I know some people are this year so they can work on their physical TBR, I am limiting myself a lot. I'm not taking frequent trips to the bookstore anymore. There's nothing that's really pulling me in, and right now there really are no books I really want to buy right now and physically own. Probably the only books I would really love to own are special editions of books I've already read and that I really love, and even then I really hesitate because I don't want to just keep spending immense amounts of money on books right now. But I did end up signing up for an adult box subscription, and that is the Fairy Loot adult box. There are not a lot of them out there, so I put myself on the wait list a couple months ago and I finally got in. And starting this channel, I really started new genres. I started reading a lot more adult fiction books and realized that I really enjoy them and I'm really curious about them. And so I know I've said before that I do not like subscription boxes because I'm not sure if I'm gonna like the book, but because it's adult fiction and I'm still exploring this genre, I think this subscription box is actually perfect for me. That doesn't really count, right? They make really beautiful special editions, so who wouldn't want a really nice collection? And they tend to pick really interesting stories, and because I don't know my own taste in adult fiction yet, I'm willing to try a mystery book a month. I don't think that is extreme. I don't think that's asking too much of me to read one adult fiction surprise book a month. So I'm really excited to start that, and I will definitely share my first unboxing when I get it. So for all these reasons, that is how I am justifying my subscription box. It's a book buy. Yeah, you can also add me on Goodreads and see how I'm managing my 30-something physical TBRs. Before we go, look at this graph. So many of you keep coming back, but so many of you are not yet subscribed, so please hit the subscribe button, like, and comment. I love creating content for you all. I'm so excited to fight our physical TBR together. Let me know how you're doing, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!